In this video, we will be looking at zeros and factors. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to write the zeros from a quadratic graph, write zeros as factors, and write the quadratic equation of a graph from the zeros. So let's take a look at a quadratic graph right here. So we have our parabola shape that we've talked about in our last lesson. We have this U shape, and the question asks, what are the zeros? Remember that my zeros is when my graph crosses or touches the x-axis. So here, my zeros are right there, and they are the points 2, 0 and 4, 0. Those are my zeros. I can also call my zeros a few other things. They're also known as x-intercepts, roots, and solutions. So this is where the graph crosses or touches the x-axis. Those are my zeros. So now I want to take a look at our factors. If we recall, factors are numbers or expressions that can be multiplied together to get another number or expression. If we look here at this first example, we only have numbers. 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So we know that 2 and 3 are factors of 6. So just like that, x plus 1, which is an expression, times x plus 2 will give me x squared plus 3x plus 2. Therefore, x plus 1 and x plus 2 are factors of x squared plus 3x plus 2. We'll look into more about how that comes about a little bit later in the lesson, but that's just what we want to look at as factors, things that multiply to be something else. So we want to rewrite our zeros from the first example as factors. We want to rewrite these zeros as factors. So our zeros from above were 2, 0 and 4, 0. The first thing we want to do is write the zeros as roots. So we want to write x equals 2 and x equals 4. We want to write the zeros as roots. So it's just a little bit different way of writing them. Now I want to make each root equal to 0. So what that means is I have 2 over here, so I want to make it equal 0. So I have to subtract 2 from both sides. Since these are not like terms, I just write them x minus 2, and my 2's cancel. I do the same thing over here, minus 4, x minus 4 is my other factor. Then I can just write them a little bit closer together, x minus 2, x minus 4. These are my factors. That is how I get my factors from the zeros. So now let's take a look what we need to do with our factors. So how could we use these factors to write the quadratic equation? So the factors that we just got were x minus 2 and x minus 4. So now if you notice, they're close together and we are going to multiply. We are going to double distribute and multiply these two factors together, because remember, that's what factors are. We are going to multiply the factors together. So let's go ahead and do that. I distribute x times x gives me x squared. If we remember our exponent rules, x times negative 4 is negative 4x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. Then I'm going to combine like terms. And I get x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals 0. This is my quadratic equation. Okay, so I started at my zeros from the graph. I got my zeros. I then found my factors, and then I got to my quadratic equation. Let's look at one more example together. So here, looking at the graph below, what are the zeros, the factors, and finally the quadratic equation? So my zeros here are where my graph touches my x-axis. My zeros are going to be -3, 0, and -1, 0. Those are my zeros. When I do my factors, I'm going to rewrite them as roots. X equals -3, x equals -1. Remember, I want to get 0 here, so I have a -3, so I'm going to plus 3 to both sides. My 3's cancel. Parentheses, x plus 3. Then I'm going to do the same thing here. I have -1 plus 1 plus 1. I get x plus 1. So these are my factors. So here I have my zeros. Then I have my factors. And lastly, I need to do the quadratic equation. So now I'm going to take x plus 3 and x plus 1 and multiply them together. So I have x times x gives me x squared. X times 1 gives me 1x. 3 times x gives me 3x. And 3 times 1 gives me 3. Combine like terms. I get x squared plus 1x plus 3x is 4x plus 3 equals 0. That is my quadratic equation. We're going to take a look at some of these examples together in class, especially the ones on the back of your notes, so please make sure you bring these completed notes to class.